call ourselves to order. It's 7:02. Happy Tuesday. Oh, Anne, this is great. So I wanted to start because like there's a fair number of new people, but also just because we're not in person and it's hard to like, I don't know, get to know each other at all. I liked it when we did this. Maria had check-in questions for a while. I was into it, so I'm doing it again. So the check-in question is, if you were a part of nature, what would you be? For example, I would be a placid lake, but the kind of lake that has like lots of people who go there to swim, but it's still like pretty chill, you know? That's what I would be. And so I'm going to call on someone and then each person can call on the next person. So I will call on Teresa. What would you be if you were a part of nature?
I guess the sun. I think I like that. Keep people warm. So happy. I miss it. All right. Next, Maria.
I would be an octopus. I'm gonna say that's a part of nature because I have 4 kids and I am constantly saying I am not an octopus. I can't. But if I had 8 arms, I could do this. Like I could do so many things so much better. And I just think octopuses are fascinating creatures. And so that's gonna be mine. I'm going to call on Elizabeth.
All right. I would be a tree because I love the imagery of roots that dig down deeply and hold firm, but then also the roots of some trees that just become interconnected and really rely on one another and are a system that spreads far and wide for support of the collective, but also because then above ground, they grow and flourish and nurture animals and are beautiful to look at and just are so many things, can be a plaything for a small child. So I think they're really versatile. I am gonna call on Stephen.
I was gonna say a birch tree. For kind of all of the stuff you just said, but then I like birch trees because they always catch me unaware. Because it's often that I'm looking in a very sort of green and brown landscape, and then there's a birch tree. And it never, they for some reason never cease to amaze me. They always stand out, and their bark reminds me of paper, and it's just this literary reference that I find in nature, and I always enjoy it. So how about Daniela?
Thank you. I think I would be a cenote. So my walls would basically be roots of trees, and up above would be plants, but then down below there's this deep, nice calming water. Eileen?
I didn't realize we were going to be deep this early on in the meeting. I don't know that I can handle it, but I would probably say a lily, and a couple reasons. When we moved to Wakefield, when we first saw our house, we didn't realize there was any sort of garden around us. And then when we moved in, there are whole bushes of lilies that bloom around June. And Sherry can probably see out her window, but like my whole side of the house is now covered in lilies. And it's sort of surprising and beautiful, and they're predictable. They come every year and their colors are so bright. So anyway, I'd say lily. Yana?
I guess I'll be a rainbow because I like like I feel like they're colorful, so it's creative and it's something to look forward to after the storm. And they go hand in hand with like sun. So and sun like is like happiness to me. So yes. Oh, sorry, I had to call on someone. Emma.
I would probably pick the ocean just because I feel like water kind of represents I don't know, everything that Earth is. It like flows everywhere, and also I like to travel, and I feel like the water just travels everywhere and kind of runs our ecosystem, and it just kind of, I don't know, it just represents everything to me. So I feel like that's really important, and yeah, that's basically it. Sherry.
Okay. I spend an awful lot of time outdoors, and I would say I would like to be a really gentle, soothing springtime breeze, something that relaxes people, travels around them, gives them pleasure in just being outdoors. And I asked Jeremy to tell us what he would like.
I think I'd be some sort of bird. Ability to hang around people's houses, fly high, go about anywhere they want to go. Fly under the radar, so to speak. Not a lot of people hate birds unless they're, maybe a crow or something that wakes you up in the morning. But yeah, I think I'd be a bird. So I think Lindsay hasn't gone yet, right?
Hi. I've loved everyone's answers, so thank you all for sharing, by the way. I think I'd be a cloud, but one of like the nice big white fluffy ones that you kind of look up at when you're on the grass as a little kid, like trying to figure out what animal that would be. Just because it reminds me of calm and peace and gives shade to others, and because it reminds me of picturing what animals they would be as a child. So I think that's what I would be. Is there anyone left, or was I last?
Anne still hasn't gone.
Anne.
I think I would be the ocean, because the ocean is calm, but it's also very fierce, and seems like people are drawn to the ocean, and it brings a lot of calm to people's lives. So I think I'd be the ocean.
I love it. Thanks, everybody. Okay, let's see. Next on the agenda is public participation, but we don't have anyone here from the public. So that's it for that. I want to bump a couple things around because Emma can only be with us for a little bit, and Lindsay is probably also only going to be with us for a little bit. So first, I already kind of said this, but now that the meeting has officially started, so Emma was appointed just at the last town meeting as our youth member for this year. So welcome, Emma. It's really wonderful to have you here. And Emma and I had some emails back and forth, but so because of her work schedule, the Tuesday night meetings are unfortunately a challenge. So she's on her break right now. She'll be with us for a little bit and then have to leave early. So I wanted to invite you, Emma. I don't know if you have any thoughts or things that are particularly on your mind, but I wanted to make some space for you to share like why you wanted to join the HRC and if there's particular things that you're interested in or excited about. What are your thoughts?
Sure. So I was just really interested in this since last year, just because of all the movements we were making towards in just society, and like how we were moving towards giving more people human rights, specifically with the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as a lot of just I've really recently witnessed a lot of like support towards gay people and just the LGBTQ plus community in general. So I just kind of wanted to get in on that and just kind of spread everyone's message through our community, because I feel like sometimes voices are shut down, whether it be in school or just around our town. So I feel like uplifting those voices and making space for them wherever we can was just really important to me.
I love it. You're with us for 1 year, right?
I believe so. Yes. Yeah. This is my senior year, so
Mm.
I think I'll be here this year.
Cool. Well, maybe you can work with us on next year's Pride event, which we're going to do a really great job of planning ahead for. We can talk about that later.
Awesome.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. And I invite you, especially since you won't be able to be with us for the full meeting, I invite you to reach out to me at any time, to anyone else at any time. Oh, another question. Were you able to, so we have a new member orientation that we do to help you understand like how this HRC works, like how does voting work? What do we do here? You know, and Sherry has put together, Sherry and a former commissioner, Jen, put together like a really nice orientation. Were you able to connect with Sherry about that? Not yet.
Not yet. I don't think so.
That would be super great if I sent an email a while ago, like introducing the two of you, like with each other's email address. I can resend it. But I think it would be helpful for you to see the orientation and then just get like a little bit of a primer on like how it works, what to expect.
Yep, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any like questions or things that we can tell you that you're wondering about or anything like that?
I think I'm all set for now. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks for being here. Exciting. And feel free to speak up if you do have questions, if we're like talking about an issue or doing something, you know, like, I don't understand how this works, or like, what am I supposed to do? Just speak up. That goes for everybody. Okay, cool. The other thing I wanted to bump up on the agenda was the mental health resources that we had talked about last time, and then wanted to like actually have them in front of us to be able to think about how we might engage with this. Lindsay sent around a bunch of them. I emailed them yesterday. But Lindsay is feeling like crap. So we wanted to put this early so that she might be able to go and rest. So Lindsay, do you want to tell us a little more about like what your thoughts were about this, what your vision is?
Yes. So, well, I don't know. I guess I don't have a clear vision. So help with that would obviously be helpful. And I apologize for not feeling well today and for not being able to stay the entire time. So some of the resources that you discussed were attached to the email with the agenda. So I have a bunch of resources, including, and I have right next to me, including but not limited to a lot of material that was in the emails, like the physical versions of the PDFs. But I also had a lot more that I wasn't able to attach as PDFs specific to, obviously, sorry guys, a little mix it up. Out of it today, not feeling great. As a therapist, mental health is super important to me, and I don't know anyone's level of familiarity with just how prevalent it is. I mean, specifically in Wakefield and in this area, we have a number of group homes, a number of day treatment programs. Horizon House is right around the corner. So I think it's really important, even for people who aren't struggling with mental illness specifically, just for the public to have an increased awareness. So I think I have a lot of resources, not only just around suicide prevention, like the ones that you saw in the email, and coping skills for COVID, which I also have, but I have a lot that are specific to just mental health and eating disorders, things like that, and addiction and other handouts. So I just wanted to get a feel for what would be the best way to get this information to the public, or if people thought it would be appropriate. I also thought maybe like it would be something to just have that there were certain resources that other people thought were appropriate at a farmer's market or something, or just a place for the public to be able to get just, grab information, handouts, things like that. So I guess I just wanted to know people's thoughts were. I have so much stuff. I can even, like I was telling Benny, I can put together packets and mail them to each of you individually if you want to review all of the physical materials that I have, whatever. I just kind of wanted to know what people's thoughts were about all of that. So.
Sherry, go for it. And then I see you, Daniela. Sherry, go ahead. And I saw Daniela also. So for Sherry, then Daniela.
I think it's very important that you make sure that whatever you're sending us is consistent with the mission of the WHRC. I think what you're talking about is very important, but we also are a body that has a specific mission, and we're only just so many people, and we should stay within that mission. So whatever you have that you think matches and is coincides with our mission would be appropriate, but just giving us so much information in general might not be as helpful. It would be better if you actually went through it and said, this coincides with our mission, this coincides with our mission before, but instead of asking us.
So I guess I would just be curious, what are people's thoughts on what all of you would consider coinciding with the mission, I guess, more specifically?
I think I can speak to that as well, as I think that there is an argument that can be made that like access to proper health resources is a human right. However, I think our focus is more on creating an education around, maybe it's something around genders or identities, different cultures, and different backgrounds in that sense. I don't think that this is something that we shouldn't we should disregard completely. I do think it's an opportunity for us to potentially reach out to the health department, or Lindsay, I think your best bet is to get in touch. We have a public health nurse that's there. We have someone who's specific to substance abuse prevention. And there's, I think Kara Showers is like a youth coordinator. And then maybe the person to like really reach out to would be Cindy Luongo, who's a principal office assistant. So sharing this resources with them and seeing like what gaps they have, because if somebody is going to look for resources that you have sent over to us, they're not going to be going to the HRC. Their first step is actually going to be the health department. So in order for your resources to be the most proactive, I think that's where it could reside, and we could do a partnership with them. So say we have a farmer's market table, we could have some materials there for people if they want to grab it. But I think that letting the health department have some control over like what the Wakefield resources are, and making sure that we're not like contradicting, because they do have a COVID-19 preparedness and reactory program. So it's just more of like, if that's what they're doing, let's make sure that we're not crossing lines and conflicting in any way. And if we are going to promote the same sort of material or subjects, then let's work together in doing that.
Sure.
Does that make sense to everyone else? Do you know what I mean? Like if we were to like partner with the health department, like maybe that's something that Lindsay, if you're interested in, you could reach out to them and see like what makes sense. And I don't even know if that's allowed also. It's another thing.
Go ahead, Maria. Yeah.
To kind of piggyback on what Daniela just said, I like the idea of partnering with organizations. And I know that Catherine Dingra probably 6 months ago had reached out through the Wake Up Coalition, which has to do with substance abuse. And I know that some of the materials had to do with that. There is the possibility of grants if we partnered with them in doing something related to that. And I can forward you all the email that she sent that really ties a concrete link between substance abuse, mental health, and human rights. So there's a possibility there. I think, Yana, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Youth Council did some stuff around youth mental health. I forget if it was just with respect to the COVID shutdown and the impact of that, or suicide awareness, but there might be an opportunity to partner with the Youth Council there. So I think there are groups that we could certainly partner with. I would be hesitant to do it alone. So yeah, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, there was a subcommittee, a mental health subcommittee ran by Lauren. I don't think we're continuing it, but we'll still be open, like of working with you and do that. Like the Youth Council would love to. Yeah.
Other thoughts, ideas, reactions? Yeah, go ahead, Sherry.
I think this, I might have brought this up before. One of the areas that there might be also an intersection is the mental health issues that might arise when people are not able to be their true selves, the gender they identify with, and any other kind of preferences they have. So if that would make it a human rights issue, if we talk about it in that way. But we are not health professionals.
Yeah, go for it, Elizabeth.
I like Sherry's thought there of thinking about barriers to healthcare and who has barriers to behavioral healthcare. There were a lot of really great resources, and I think I'm hearing some things from other people that are answering my primary question, but I think that my primary question there was, so what, like, what do we do with this? Because this is a lot of information, but we as a group don't, I mean, one, most of us are not in healthcare, and don't or really should not be like offering advice and giving like people direction in any particular way. We should, be, I mean, there's kind of a big umbrella of like, here, I can direct you to this like very loosely place. So then I think my question was, well, what do we do with all of this information? Because it's information, but it isn't programming. It doesn't have a like, what do we do with it there? And I'm hearing that from a lot of other people as thinking about like, well, we can create programming. That was all.
Oh,
Maybe Stephen, because you haven't had a chance, and then Lindsay, it sounds like you, or looks like you have a response or an idea.
I would kind of piggyback on what Elizabeth had mentioned, sort of the idea of what exactly are we trying to provide. And I think to what you had said, programming might not necessarily be the thing. And it's not like we have anyone who's skilled enough to, provide any real advice. But even if it was to the level of sort of curating resources, and there are definitely specific programs out there, I'm sure, that touch upon, sort of what Maria said. Catherine has already sort of mentioned a tie-in between mental health and sort of some of the underserved groups that, that we're missioned, allied, with. That if those programs exist, maybe we can help sort of curate them. And it's just a list, and it's not a static list, it's a living list that kind of, as resources become available and better resources and resources adapt, maybe that's what we can do best, is sort of collate that information and make it more accessible to sort of those populations that either come to talk to us, or even if we just put it on the stand at some event or something, just so that we make it accessible, if that makes sense.
Lindsay, go ahead. You said, looked like you had your hand up a second ago.
yes, thank you. So I want to thank you all for your feedback and ideas, which are wonderful and very helpful. So yeah, I agree. It's a lot of information with not a clear idea of what to do with it. I guess my first step was sort of determining what we could use and what we could not use, just because we need to clear it with everybody, I thought. So I agree with Sherry. You had some great ideas around information specific to underserved populations or more marginalized populations, which I had put, I believe, in an email to Benny. I think, focusing on maybe, different languages, or, people who are struggling with feeling like they are misrepresented or underrepresented or underserved, or any sort of marginalized populations. I think that's really important. I have a lot of that as well. So I'm not, like I said, a lot of it isn't in PDF format. So I was just curious as to how I could get what I can go through it and weed out what, like you had said, what is relevant for and what speaks to our mission, and how could I get that to people so that they could review it in physical. I have it like this kind of stuff, like boxes of that, like stuff like that. And a lot of it is very broad to speak to us not being professionals. Well, that's not our role as, Human Rights Commission, but I think having information easily accessible to the public so that they can feel like they can get the support they need no matter who they are. I think that's sort of all inclusive. It's more general information. So I think the more specific stuff, I would agree with all of you that leave it to the health department or partner with them. But I think for just general information, I think it would be helpful if I can find a way to weed out what is what speaks to our mission specifically. So that's all I wanted to say about, I guess, that. And thank you all very, very much.
So one question I have is what comes first? Like, do we look at the materials first and then decide what we're going to do, or we decide kind of what our general plan should be and then look at the materials and decide what to include in that plan? You know, so it's like, do we contact Catherine Dingra and the health department and talk about potential partnerships first and then decide how to incorporate the materials into that process, or vice versa? What do you think, Daniela?
I think the former. I think reaching out, talking about a partnership, sharing all the materials, because she maybe will just easily be like, we already have this, or we don't have this. That way she can identify the gaps from there. And then in parallel, if Lindsay's up for it, just sort of looking through and off the top of her mind, the items that she had just mentioned that were specific to those who, you know, maybe from marginalized communities, their experiences, that may be something that we can use. And so that way, if we were to use it, the health department's in line with it. We're not just sharing materials that they would be like, yeah, that contradicts what we would advise sharing. And we can have it as a resource on Facebook. It could be a resource on the website. It could be a hard copy resource at events. That way it's like sort of approved.
Emma.
I think definitely getting the feedback from the health department and everyone, just to get like more of an idea on what to do with the information or what information to include and which to weed out is important, just to get more like more information, more specific information to like our mission on the topic. I think that would definitely help out. And also I have to actually leave, but thank you very much for inviting me, and it was great to meet all of you.
Thanks, Emma. See you again. Okay, so I'm thinking, Lindsay, would you be interested in, Eileen?
I'm sorry, Benny, before you kind of jump from there.
Yeah.
You know, looking through all of this stuff, Lindsay, I also wondered, this is sort of a combination, I think, of Daniela and Sherry, with all of the events that go on throughout the year and the way that we sort of advertise information and we post it on Facebook and we get it out to the websites and things like that. I wonder if there's a way for us to always have like some sort of connection to mental health for that specific month that we're covering. So if it's like Pride Month, what are the resources that we would use for the LGBTQIA community? What would we do for the AAPI month? How would we do that for Black History Month? Or, you know what I mean? Like, how do we incorporate the information that you provided to us specific to those populations? And then that way we are always sort of partnering with the Board of Health or providing some additional resources. And then I think that also goes to what you guys talked about last month. I'm sorry I missed your meeting, but I think you were talking a little bit about bringing in other organizations to sort of share information. And maybe, you know, that's kind of the beginning of us partnering with like the Board of Health and mental health initiatives and resources and things like that. So it's kind of a combo, I think, of what Sherry and Daniela were thinking.
Yeah, seeing lots of head nods and enthusiasm. Lindsay, go ahead.
Thank you. And then I might have to leave shortly after that. I apologize. I love that. And I do have a lot that I was actually thinking that as well. Thank you so much. That's a great idea. I have a lot that would align with, I wasn't thinking for every month like that, but that's a great idea. But I have a lot that would align with certain months or certain themes of events that we already do. And I do think it would be easier. I already do have pre-existing connections with Red Cross and the Medical Reserve, who I currently work with as well. So a lot of this information is, I mean, if it were available somewhere in Wakefield that were easily accessible to the public, I would know about it. It isn't. That's the truth. I've been in touch with the health departments in all of these areas for various reasons. So if it were easily accessible, I wouldn't have stacks of it in my living room, or I'd already be aware of it. It is in certain places, but not where people are, not where people know where to find it, I guess. But I think it's definitely very realistic to make it geared towards whatever we're planning for that month. That could be an easy way to link mental health with, you know, our mission and whatever events that we're involved in with the community monthly. So thank you for that. It's a great idea. And I could definitely go through that and have that align with whatever is planned for the coming months, as long as, you know, everyone thinks that that information will be helpful.
I love that idea. And I also like, you know, it does support this idea, which I really strongly believe in, of like no wrong door, right? Like there should be no wrong way to get information that could really be helpful to someone. You know, so if we end up being the place where someone picks up the thing that's going to help them, that's great. So Lindsay, would you be interested in being like kind of liaising? Is that a word? Liaisoning? I'm not sure what that word is, with the health department or with other people like that we were describing.
I don't have no problem doing that at all. Like I said, I already network with a number of other not so local providers. So I think probably by default, I have some affiliation with some of them anyway. But if anyone has any specific contacts that they've been working with that they could forward information to me for, that would be very helpful. That way, maybe I could just continue, or I can just find new contacts. I wasn't sure. You had mentioned, someone had mentioned being in contact with somebody from the health department. I wasn't sure who.
Well,
So
there's
if someone,
Catherine Dingra, who does not work for the health department. Does she work for the health department?
She doesn't work for the health department. She's the director of the Wake Up Coalition, which is the Wakefield, oh my God, Unified Prevention Coalition, I think is what it stands for. And the health department is part of that coalition, and she's in very close contact with that. So, and yeah, I can't remember the email that she had sent about possibly partnering with the HRC. I can't remember if it was through the coalition or through another group. So I would be happy to connect the two of you.
please, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I can do that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks.
Cool. Does anybody else have particular contacts that seem like they would be appropriate or important to reach out to? All right, well, maybe start there. And then Catherine may also have like additional ideas because she's like hooked into that world. Thanks for bringing this, Lindsay. I appreciate pushing our thoughts about what, like how we can serve the community. So, okay, I'm going to go back to, and feel free to leave if you need to go, like take care of yourself, please do. Okay, bye, Lindsay. I'm going to return to our regularly scheduled programming here, which brings us back to approval of the minutes. So first, let's do last month's HRC meeting, the June 15th. Has everybody had a chance to check out the minutes that Sherry typed up? It's a yes. So we go around. Oh, I was going to explain this to Emma, but Emma's already gone. But we can go around and do the roll call for approving the minutes from last meeting. So let's see, starting with Teresa.
Yes.
Maria.
Yes.
Elizabeth.
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Daniela.
Stephen doesn't actually get a vote. Sorry, Stephen.
Oh, I
Right,
forgot.
right. I'm like, that's strange, but I'll say yes.
The
Yeah.
liaisons don't get a vote.
I appreciate your support.
Yes.
Daniela, thank you. Eileen.
Do I get a vote if I wasn't there?
Yes.
Okay, then yes.
I think that's what we said, because we asked this when Tom Mullins was here.
Tom said, if you're not there, you don't vote.
That's right. You only vote if you were present to actually hear the proceedings.
Got it.
So I wasn't there either, was I?
Last month? I don't remember. Yeah. I think
was.
we did. Okay,
Take my vote back.
Take my bot. Yeah.
great. Sherry.
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Lindsay, were you there?
Yes, I was. And yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes. Thank you, everyone. The next one is the Pride Subcommittee. Who was on the Pride Subcommittee? This was Elizabeth, Eileen, Daniela. Anybody else? There's the three of you.
I think Lindsay volunteered and she was sort of played in the background a little bit. And I think that was it.
Okay, well, that sounds good because that means we have a quorum of you to approve the minutes. So we're doing the May 28th Pride Subcommittee. Elizabeth, what say you?
Yes.
Daniela,
Yes.
Eileen?
Yes.
All right, doing great. Thanks, everybody. Okay, next on here is the Pride recap, because this is our first time meeting since Pride Month ended. And then ideas, thoughts about how to proceed, excuse me, how to proceed for next year. So I don't know who wants to take that.
Is that me because I was the chair?
I guess so. Or anyone else, I guess, who is involved can also throw in their thoughts and recap ideas or whatever.
I have a list. I'll go. And then you guys tell me when I've forgotten something. I think we had a ton of fantastic ideas and thought that we would change the world in like a week and a half, and realized really quickly, like you had originally all told us, like you're going to come up with all these ideas and you're not going to be able to make them all happen. But we were able to, right, like participate in the flag raising this year, first year after COVID. So like, yay us, right? We were all there, which was awesome. Daniela put together some awesome profiles that were posted on Facebook, which was great. So Benny, thank you for posting all of those, and Daniela for putting them together. They were fantastic. We partnered with the BB Library, and they came up with a list of sort of age appropriate books that focused on LGBTQIA topics, everything from, I think, kindergarten to adults, which was awesome. We were able to post all of those. And then we put together sort of a virtual Wakefield Pride Day. I'm not sure how incredibly successful it was, but the attempt was there for June 26th for people to sort of get out and color their sidewalks and post some photos of ways in which they celebrated Pride on that day. So, we were able to do a few things. So I think good for us for having done it for the first time. So there's that. I think we talked a lot about next year and planning for next year and what that looks like, and things, like planning earlier, maybe a potential Pride festival in the future for us, painting the crosswalks in rainbow colors, maybe some of the banners on Main Street, showing some progress flags and things like that. And so I wonder if we should start in March, February, that kind of thing, to plan for June next year. And then in one of our conversations with a community member, she also mentioned the fact that the virtual Pride Day that we had this year, 6/26, was also the same Pride Day that the North Shore Pride had originally planned for. They were going to do it on 6/26 for their Pride Parade. They've actually postponed it to September 8th. So I've reached out to them to see sort of what that looks like, so that if we wanted to share that information on our Facebook page for the future, we could certainly do that. If we wanted to walk in the parade, we could figure out how to go about doing that, but ways that the North Shore, that Wakefield could sort of, participate there. So I'll share that when I hear back from them. But I think that's everything. Danielle, Elizabeth, did I miss anything?
I don't think you did. I would say it's more specific as far as planning ahead. I was even thinking of starting an event plan for next year, this year, just so that way we have milestones and deadlines. Like, say, for example, if we wanted to do the crosswalks, we probably need a lot more time, because then we have to get approval, and we have to get a budget, and then we have to get someone to do it. And if the town councilors have to vote on every step of the way, that's like 3 months right there, unless we can get it all on one agenda, which I don't know how easy that would be. But yeah, I think you did really well covering all the bases. I guess the only thing that was really missing that we talked about that we didn't do, that is in the minutes that we approved, was having live readings. And we replaced that with the list of books from the library, just because that was like a lot of organization to have to do the live readings and recordings. So maybe next year.
I'm curious, Anne, do you have any insight about what it takes from the town's side of things if we were to like propose or ask or whatever about painting the rainbow sidewalks? I mean, not sidewalks, crosswalks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be something that would come up, go through the town administrator and then come up as an item for us to vote on, I would believe. That somebody could make that as a motion.
Cool. So first step, reach out to Steve Mayo,
That's what I would do.
kind of negotiate some stuff with him, and then he would bring it to the town council.
Hmm.
Cool. Same, you think, with the banners in downtown?
Probably.
Because I love that. I think that's such a cool idea, because the flag is awesome. The other point that I have that's kind of like on my tickler to deal with is the current town's flag policy involves flying the flag at the Civic Center, which we did, which is like not ideal in a lot of ways because it's like behind a giant tree and not like for people who mostly spend time right in the downtown area and don't stray towards like South Main Street.
Hmm.
People don't see it. I know a bunch of people who have said to me, like, I wish Wakefield flew the pride flag. And I'm like, we did fly the pride flag, but they never saw it. And so it's like my personal mission to convince the town council to change the flag policy to include other poles in town besides just the Civic Center.
Yeah, some towns do it at town hall.
Yeah.
Some towns do it at the library.
Yep. I think the schools too, this I think would not go through town council. I'm assuming it would go through, I don't know if it would be individual school administrators or if it would be the superintendent's office, but like each school also has a flagpole. Like that would be so rad if the elementary schools and stuff like had pride. Anyway, I think there could be lots of cool possibilities. But the other thing I was thinking is that thing about the banners in town, even if we only have like one flag location and not everybody's seeing the flag and it's not having that big of an impact, the banners could be like more impactful for them. So love those ideas.
We could also share the banners on me. I'm totally going off topic here, so stop me. But like half the street could be progress flag banners and the other side could be Juneteenth banners. I mean, just a way to be as inclusive as possible for the month of June. I don't know, something to think about.
Totally. Or like alternating. Yeah, Elizabeth, go ahead.
I will say I was just, I'm up in Vermont right now, and I was just driving through Rutland, Vermont, which is roughly I think it might be the second largest city in the state, but it's also half the size population wise of Wakefield. Just to give you a sense of like how big it is, right? It's and they had banners this year. They had one at the hospital, but they had on all of their lampposts, they put little banners this year. And driving through Rutland, which has never been a particularly warm and welcoming place, and seeing all of those little banners was really lovely. But what I also noticed about it is that so many businesses, I think, then took those banners and followed up with their own flags in business windows, which was really remarkable and delightful to see. So I think that's like in the vein of thinking about banners ourselves in Wakefield. I was surprised at how tender it seemed.
Thinking about or like folding in Juneteenth too, because you brought it up. I'm thinking, I wonder if we could order, you know how we have the Pride, like little mini lawn flags? We could get the Juneteenth lawn flags. Because I saw a couple of those. I was in Melrose, I think. I saw some places had little Juneteenth lawn flags. And I was like, oh, nice. That's good. Anyway. So what would you think the next steps be? Danielle, you had mentioned having sort of like a timeline or like benchmarks for things that we should be aiming for. Like if we need to ask town permission for such and such, we should initiate that at this time or whatever.
Yeah. I think Maria wanted to say something though.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Go.
Oh, no, that's okay. And actually related to the timeline. So two things. With respect to the light post in June, I think the town in the past has has used the banners on the light post for graduating seniors. So I would just maybe reach out to the school department and see if that's something that they're planning to do next year. And if so, maybe trying to think creatively about other, like the banner across Main Street, maybe using that, something like that. So just making people aware of that. And then with respect to the other, I love the idea of making the pride flag more visible on other flagpoles around town. One thing that I just want to keep in mind is that in creating the policy, the reason that they put it at the Civic Center was to tie it to an event at the Civic Center. And obviously this year was an exception where we couldn't have an event. But the reason that they did that was out of concern that a group that doesn't have maybe the good intentions, like basically, for an example, like if a white supremacist group said, we want you to fly our flag, and you flew this flag of the the pride flag that the Human Rights Commission asked you to fly, why you're discriminating against us if you say you can't fly our flag when you could fly the progress flag? Why? And opening us up to greater, opening the town up to greater possible legal disputes and stuff like that. So that's why they tied it to the flagpole at the Civic Center, so that they could say, well, they're hosting an event there, that's why they get to fly the flag there. So I would encourage, if we want to explore the possibility of using flagpoles in other parts of town, maybe reaching out to other towns that have flown it at their town halls and seeing, what are their policies? Do they have it tied to a particular thing? Do they feel that, I think the likelihood that a group like that would ask us is slim, but we don't want to leave it open to that. So yeah, just again, something else to be aware of.
And you might want to talk to Tom Mullen, our town council, town attorney.
Yeah.
He always provides great insight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, because my argument about this has always been, like, I totally understand the rationale behind the flag policy, and it seems like the town has the latitude to make the policy however they want to make it. So it could say something like, if you have a town sanctioned event, you can fly flags on such and such different flagpoles, like it would still, to my mind, I don't know the legal ramifications, so maybe I'm wrong about this. To me, it seems like that could achieve the same goal, but have the flexibility to, use different flagpoles. It would deal with the thing we had this year where we had to take down the pride flag to put up the Juneteenth flag. Like if we could use 2 different flagpoles. Anyway, I agree though, talking to Tom Mullen, and again, the same as with the painting the sidewalk, painting the crosswalks, like reaching out to the, I don't know if it would be reaching out to Steve Mayo or to Julie, or like who's the person to start with in terms of proposing a change?
Well, I would probably start with Steve, just to find out what are the issues around painting crosswalks.
Oh, I was talking about the flag thing.
Oh, the flag thing. I would I think Julie or Steve. I mean, I would probably go to, or Tom Mullen, to get his legal position in terms of how to approach that. Yeah. He might be a good resource. And my only advice would be that whatever, comes before town council to vote on, if there comes to be something that you'd like us to vote on, that it's really solid, so that so that people can't find reasons not to do it.
So I'm happy to take on the flag piece, because I started talking to Julie about it. And I'm happy to follow that thread and talk to Tom Mullen. Like you said, maybe reach out to the other towns and see what do people happen to know which towns fly at town hall or city hall?
I think Brookline. I was in Brookline. I know that they have the crosswalks for Pride Month, and I think that they have the flag as well at town hall. They also have a town hall. They also have a Black Lives Matter sign. So that might be actually good to reach out to. I don't know about Melrose.
I feel like Melrose did, or somebody told me that. I could certainly ask them.
Hmm.
Salem's another one.
Oh, yeah.
But
That's-
like they also have flags that like I could have just mistaken a business flag on a legit pole. But I'm pretty sure there are another one that has flags more and like in the town hall. They definitely have the crosswalks.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh yeah, Jeremy, go for it.
Yeah, Salem might be a good place to get in touch with because they've been, they're always like ahead of the curve on everything. So I think that they've probably have been, I would imagine that they have the pride flag at town hall, but I don't know for sure. But they're pretty progressive. I know Kim Driscoll, and I could actually reach out to Kim and ask her if they have it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, Benny, I apologize. I have to adjourn from the meeting because I have another meeting at 8 that I couldn't get out of. So
We'll miss you.
yeah. So I don't know if Maria has anything from our side, but I don't. So I would be quiet most of the rest of the meeting anyway. So, but I'll look for the notes. So, and let me know if I get volunteered for anything.
Yep, we'll assign all the tasks.
So anyway, thank you.
All right, bye, Jeremy.
Bye.
Okay, any other thoughts about? Oh, I was gonna ask, I feel like I was in the middle of asking maybe. Do you want Daniela to like sketch out what that timeline could look like, or where should we start with that?
It seems to me,
Okay, well, I was asking Daniela.
Yeah.
So I just want to hear what she has to say about that, and then you, Sherry, okay?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah, I can draft a timeline, maybe pairing up with like Sherry or other people who have had similar experiences with trying to get something through at a town meeting. Even just like the proclamation that had to get approved, like a somewhat similar step process where we have to bring it to say Stephen Mayo, get us feedback, some sort of internal meeting where we figure out, as Anne had very nicely suggested, making it concrete and foolproof and like really, a strong presentation that we can then give to the council so that way we can make the best use of their time. Sherry, sorry, what you were going to say?
I was just going to say that I think that every single event that we traditionally plan should have this kind of timeline. Every
Totally.
single one of it. So it's not reinvented each year, because what a challenge when you bring someone new on like Eileen, who hadn't done this before, and she has to start from scratch when others who have done it before, if they had left a timeline, she would have had that as at least a resource, and it would be an evolving document. So I think we need to do this for each and every one of our signature events.
I love that idea.
I agree 100%.
Well, so I wonder if we should, for anyone who is here who has done an event in the past year or so, well, maybe it's weird because this was the COVID year. I was going to say like maybe sketch out what you think the timeline was or should have been for your event, like for MLK, for Asian American Pride Heritage Month, for Pride Month, for Black History Month, like write down some thoughts for the timeline. What do people think? Yeah, Sherry, and then Eileen, and then Daniela.
Yeah. I'm going to put this as an action item, that everyone who has planned an event this year should put together a timeline, and it should be 2 different timelines. One, if it's live, and the other if it's virtual, because I know that we have to put together, for AAPI month, for instance, we put together more events than we would have if we had had a big event, one big event. Benny, we were doing 3-4 things a week. Whereas if we were able to have something live, we could have had one large event and then a few smaller things surrounding it. So there has to be timelines for both live and virtual, because who knows what the future holds.
Eileen, what were you gonna say?
I wonder if I'm getting too into the weeds here, but we've had like subcommittees of groups. I wonder if we can keep those subcommittees throughout year to year. The hope is that like we're all still doing this in a year. And so, you know, Teresa and I were involved in 2. I don't know. We did so much stuff together. I don't know what it is. And so I wonder if like each subcommittee should be coming up with their timeline and versus like all of us just coming up with our time. Do you know what I mean? Like, should we have like our little subcommittees get together over the next, you know, in the summer when everyone's free, to talk about like what the timeline could have looked like versus all of us coming up with our own kind of idea. I don't know. I'm trying to make it a little more focused for us so that we're not just like, you know, we've got like 7 different Pride timelines and that kind of thing.
I think that's what was intended, that there would be one for each signature event.
Subcommittee, got it.
Yeah, not 5 because you have 5 people. You just get input from everybody though.
Right.
Yeah, the difficulty with having a getting together your subcommittee is
Put it on
you
the
have to like
site.
post the meeting and do all the stuff. Everybody loves open meetings. I'm just saying a little bit of a pain, but maybe that's a good idea. What you just said, Sherry, of maybe the chair of each of those committees could like send an email and say like, hey, email me back individually, like what your thoughts are for the timeline, compile something, and then we'll have something for each one. Daniela, I had told you could talk and then I talked instead. You go.
Totally fine. So one of the meeting material items that were sent around was event promotion and planning document. I think once we have all these timelines put together, we can take a look and streamline, okay, what are the trends here? So if we're all gonna agree that we should send out a massive communication to widespread, like, I mean, websites and newspapers and so forth 2 weeks in advance, and then a reminder in a week in advance. You know, that's like part of like the structure that we can have for every event. And we could add it as a tab there. We could even have, you know, sections of that tab be like in person or virtual or hybrid events. So that way it's like a really good guide. I mean, a guide for dummies essentially for that way we are built for scale and sustainability as you know, we grow, we evolve as a group. And I think, you know, maybe the major differences will be whether or not we need to get something approved. Because I think that's just another timeline thing that may not be involved in every little thing that we do, but.
Yeah, there will be different things like, do you need to reserve a venue? Do you need to like get permission from a publisher to read a book on a video? You know, like there's different, depending on the thing, it will have different timelines. So, okay, so people who were the chairs of their committees, which like I did MLK, who did Black History Month? Maria, was that you? Oh, or was it Nicole?
She and I worked on it together. Yeah, I can reach out to her.
Maybe the 2 of you can, yeah, just like put your heads together.
Yeah.
And then me and Sherry can do for API.
What about
And
Women's
women's,
History Month?
yeah,
I did International Women's Day.
nice. So each of us maybe can reach out to our various subcommittees and get some feedback or ideas about timelines and bring that to our next meeting. Sounds great. Okay, anything else on that before we go on? Okay. Anti-racism action updates. I will say I still have not reached out to the active bystander training people to reschedule. My bad. Sorry about that. Next time I will have an update. Hate has no home here signs. We sold them at the farmer's market. We sold, I can't remember how many.
65 divided by 5.
Yeah, I was just trying to think about that. I wasn't getting any success though. Anyway, we sold that many.
That's 13. That's
okay, great.
13.
Thank you.
13.
Yep. And related to that, I have them at my house. So if people hear of anyone interested, just shoot me an email or a text, and I can figure out how to get it to people.
Like, what did you sell at Farmers Market?
The hate has no home here signs.
Oh,
I have a suggestion. And I don't know how this, I noticed that by the gazebo, there's now a digital board. And of course, there's a digital board in Town Hall. Would we be able to advertise that these are available so that Maria doesn't have them in her house forever on those digital boards? Because I don't know when we're going to again have a live event at which we can sell these. So I don't know who you even add. Is it Jen McDonald that you asked?
There's like a form you fill out or something, right, Maria? Some kind of request thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was posting posters in the kiosks in terms of having like are you talking about like a revolving message that's on the digital kiosk?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I think that would also be Jen McDonald. I think she would be the first person, and if she didn't know, she could definitely tell us who,
Okay.
but she's the communications person, so I think that would be her.
I would be very happy to get in touch with Jen McDonald.
Awesome. Daniela.
How can we sell them in general? Like, can we post a sort of ad on our Facebook page that these are available and then share them to the community groups? Is it something that the youth council can also promote and say, you know, because right now if we do the digital board and the gazebo, I think that's going to be a different demographic than the Facebook community groups. And we still might be missing the younger generation who might also want to be like, Mom, Dad, yeah, this sounds cool, let's do that. Or Mom, Dad, I got it for you anyways. I'm putting in your law, which happened at the farmer's market. I thought it was so funny. But yeah, so just a thought to get that out there, where we don't have to fill out any request forms, so we can do something in the immediate future. But if we do that, then how do we say like, buy it here? Because we don't have an online way to pay, right? It's got to be cash or check.
are you always going to have it at the farmer's market? You could
Well,
just
that's another
put it on the
question.
website.
What'd you say?
You could put it on their website, the farmer's market website.
So this is a question for us, which is on the agenda, but we could talk about it right now, which is like, should we have more, like, should we sign up for more tables at the farmer's market? We're allowed to do it, I think like once a month or twice a month, maybe something like that. There's like a limit on how frequently one group is allowed to be there, but
I thought that was nice.
yeah.
I'd vote yes, especially if we get more swag.
I know, the flags were a big hit. Everybody wanted a flag.
Yeah, that's one thing that's awkward about the summer is that during this portion of the summer, there's not like an event that we're promoting or like a, yeah, like a theme month or whatever. So if we did the farmer's market, I'm interested to hear like what would be good stuff to have to give away or to promote.
Could we have a calendar like of events coming up or something like saying this month, like not necessarily dates, but just saying, you know, we celebrate this and we do this month and that month, like something like that.
Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, we do. And we have even a broader calendar than that the one I put together that has all of those different commemorations. So we have ours, the ones we celebrate that we commemorate, and then there's the ones that anyone else can choose to commemorate as they see appropriate.
Yeah, I think it would be especially cool, like to have some kind of flyer or thing that has the HRC events or commemorations and saying like, keep your eye out in October for whatever, you know.
When school starts, Benny, you had great success going through the PTOs and the principals. We could advertise through them so that the students would know when they can take that information home to their parents, that if they'd like one of those signs, they can go on our website.
I saw Elizabeth and then Stephen.
So one of the things that I noticed when Eileen and I were at the table was that we met a number of folks who are newer to Wakefield and were asking how they could be involved. And over, we found ourselves saying, hey, all of these events, we welcome members of the public. You know, this is a like set group that is the voting members of the HRC, but we welcome folks from the public getting involved in any of our particular events. And so I think it would be really valuable actually to have a like, here are some major things that happen throughout the year. If one of these strikes your interest, here's how you get in touch with us as a group to get involved and participate. And I know, I mean, Eileen, you did things with the HRC prior to being a member, right? So I think that's a great way for folks to connect. And I think particularly for folks who are newer to town, the farmers market is a big draw, especially because there are a number of towns nearby that don't have one. So it's a great place to be able to share that general information and help people get connected to how they can participate, not only just look for our event coming at this time.
Stephen and then Daniela.
I was wondering if even the at the farmers market, if the farmers market table like that they have themselves wouldn't maybe be willing to sort of host our signs if we're only allowed to be there once per month. Would they? Because they seem to be fairly popular, and I think if they were just sort of, and they have plenty of real estate sort of around their tent, would they be willing to sort of just have a set of signs and, you know, $5 and then whatever the transfer would be? So that was one thought. And then to the idea of sort of people being able to gain access to information about the HRC and to a calendar of events, if we had it on, you know, the website, and we were able to print out like a QR code that we could just print up and put on the table, so that people could walk up with their phones and just take a picture of it and bookmark it. And that way it's not a paper that they stuff into their back pocket, or it might make it easier to access it really quick. They're just boom, boom. Oh, hey, look at that. And it might be an easy way to do it without a lot of expense. Just print it out, put it on the table, done.
Genius. Daniela, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that idea, the QR code. The environmentalist in me thanks you for not using more paper. I was thinking along the same lines, if the farmers market table, like the general one, could sell our sign, but also another idea for us to have a swag could be something that maybe we sell or we promote is suggested reads or materials. You know, we're all kind of going on this journey of unlearning and relearning things. Having, I think, anti-racism books out there all year round doesn't just have to be for February, and same thing with any of the children's books or other books that the library had recommended for LGBTQIA+. Just so that way we're not always promoting this only in that month. We're just like, we're always an ally, we're always a resource, and it could be supplemental things that we have when it's not a whole month. So maybe for Pride Month or in Juneteenth, we have like just the tables just focused on that, or the resources are highlighting just that. But for these in between months where we're like, nothing like huge right now, we have like something to fall back on.
Okay, so we have a couple different threads here. One is how to sell our hate has no home here signs right now. One is tabling at the farmers market and like what to put on our table. And one is like or part of that maybe is the calendar with QR code. So I have a couple of questions. I'm going to go in reverse order. Would somebody be willing to make like a flyer thing with the major events of the year and like what month they take place in, so that we could post that on our website / hand it out as a flyer? And I don't know how you do QR codes. I'm sure it's easy to do. Would someone be willing to do the flyer?
I'll do the flyer. I don't know how to do a QR code, but I can do the flyer.
QR
I can do the QR part, or Daniela, sure.
No, I was just gonna say QR generators are online, but Stephen, if you've
Yeah.
got experience, you go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, Maria and Stephen. Let's see. I can reach out to the farmer's market. One about like reserving another table for us to do. And also about this question of like, would you sell our signs on the side? So. And
We should definitely play on the idea that they're taking up space in Maria's garage and she's inundated and everything's to help Maria with the signs. Yeah.
Good angle.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And then there was the question of advertising that we're selling these things. So like, I'm happy to put a post on our Facebook page. Yana, what is there, do you think there's a way to cross-pollinate with the youth council and post like on your IG or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Hold on, sorry if you can't hear me. There was a humidifier going on. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're working out and who's gonna be controlling of that. Honestly, I think I'm gonna volunteer controlling the Instagram. So that would be kind of fun to do, but we could definitely post that out onto the social medias.
Cool. Yeah, Sherry.
I know it's very low tech, but whatever flyer we have or advertisement, we can put in the lobby of the library, the front entrance lobby. We can post it there. And I will say that the people at Cravings have been extremely receptive to posting things. Farmland has been, in terms of posting the message posters, I don't know if they would be as receptive to something like selling the signs, but I think Cravings would be willing to post a flyer too. And you know, everybody goes to Cravings because everyone wants ice cream.
Except for vegans. Just saying. Okay. Was there something else? Oh, the what do you call it? The electric, what were you saying? What's that called? Banner. Sherry, were you gonna reach out?
Oh, yes, I put that on my action to do. I'll
Okay, great.
contact Jen McDonald.
Thank you.
And just to answer an earlier question in terms of if people see that, how they get in touch with us, I think the best way would be to put our email address, or they can send us a message on Facebook. So that way people who aren't on Facebook can still get through. And then whoever, I'm responsible for checking the messages that come in over Facebook. And so I can directly connect to whoever sends us a message on there. And Benny, if you get an email on the WHRC email, you can just send their name to me or connect me in some way, and I can figure out how to get the sign to them.
Yeah. Random side note, Daniela mentioned that she wasn't able to message the HRC page recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you been getting messages recently?
Not super recently that I'm thinking about. I can check and see when the last one.
I wonder if there's like some setting that got changed or something.
Yeah, I tried to share something, and then when I try to type in like Wakefield human rights or human rights, nothing would come up. But then I would do the Facebook search and I could find the page. So I was like, okay, it was weird. But I had messaged it before, like before I joined. So
you should be able to tag us. I don't know. And you should be able to message, like DM us. You can't post things on our page.
right,
Only
I
administrators.
was sharing something via message.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know about that then.
Yeah, the last message that I have is from July 5th. So we were getting them as recently as that.
So that's kind of a sidebar. We can maybe try to troubleshoot that at some point.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me. Okay, I'm gonna move on in the agenda here. So the next thing on here is advertising HRC events. So this is revolving partly around the document that Sherry made up for us.
Yeah, and I'd like us to use the word promoting rather than advertising, because
Oh,
we
great.
do way more than, we don't, we promote it in a lot of different ways. And that is by no means a comprehensive document, because I know that all of you, when you were planning events, had people that you contacted. There's a particular tab that's resources, people to contact, and I need your help. I need to know, for instance, who you contacted about having that ceremony at the AmeriCorps Center. Besides just getting approval from the town manager, who did you have to talk to in order to have the correct personnel on site to raise the flag? You know, things of that sort. Also, for people who've done live events, I don't know who the go-to person is at the high school if we have a live event at the high school. I don't know who all the go-to people are at these different places. And please share with me. Just send me an email and say, oh, I had this person. Look at that list and you'll see there's a lot of gaps, but please share everything that you possibly can. I'll incorporate, and that particular document will keep growing. Plus, I know that we were talking about also creating timelines for planning events, and that could be incorporated into that document as well, because it's promoting, and I can add a new column there and advise how early you want to promote things as well. So I will add to that my advice on how soon you want to promote something. And a lot of it is really dependent on how soon the committee forms. We frequently are forming very last minute. But if we have some at least ongoing members of the committee that serve the next year, have some community, that would really help. You know, Eileen, you said, you know, we can't always have the same exact committee because people's terms end, but if at least have one ongoing member, that would help, you know, in each committee. So share whatever resources, names, phone numbers, email addresses, how that person can be helpful to us. And just, it's sherryoken@gmail.com.
Thank you, Sherry, for putting that together. It's already like a really impressive document, I think. Like it takes a lot of work even to think through like what is the information that I need to find. Even if you personally don't have it, I appreciate the amount of work that you put into thinking through like what are the types of things that we need to know and record. So I really appreciate this document.
Well, the important thing is that we have it in one place, so we're not always looking at scraps of paper, looking for the Wakefield email address, or how do you get in touch with Patch?
Yeah.
And dealing with Patch, I want to alert people about this. When you post something on Patch, I don't know if there's any way around this, but you go through your own personal email. And I've talked to Maria about this. And what happens is, even though people do not see your email, they only see your name. And then they can easily match it to who you are on the HRC website. I got some, and continue to get some disturbing emails from people in the community in reaction to even just putting up there, we have signs available, or we're going to be at the, you know, it's amazing that people would spend their time being truthfully somewhat so hateful, when all I'm doing is here's some information. And I don't know how to get around that, because Patch, you have to give them your email. And as soon as you log in, it's your email. I wish there was a way we could have it just go through the generic. Stephen, do you know how to handle this differently that you can help us?
I'm thinking, can't you could create an account using the HRC email, use the same email that you link to the Facebook account, the general, and at least then you can sort of curate it generally without it being a personal thing, because we get messages to the HRC email all the time, right? Positive and unfortunately at times negative. But so that might be a way to do it, is just create a new account, same email that gets used for the Facebook account, and then use that for posting. and use it with the same social media guideline sort of thing, because it is an informative kind of post, and just treat it like that. And maybe that's a way around it.
And I would like to do that, except that every time I even click on patch, it goes right to my Gmail, my personal Gmail.
You could delete your account.
I'm gonna have to, because I certainly do not want any more emails from Ted or some of these other people who I don't even know who they are, but there's some really, really disturbing and hateful.
Sherry, I'm
email.
so sorry to hear that. That's terrible.
And it's all old news. It's stuff that we have dealt with and resolved within the commission.
So, yeah, I think certainly having a depersonalized Patch account. The other question I have is like, should we be advertising on Patch? Like, is it a helpful place to get information out there?
I think it is.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we can create an account using, you know,
Just to
WHRC.
give it a little sort of a background of what seems to be happening lately within the past year or so with Patch, is that there's some local sources that have been sort of looking more at Wakefield lately, because people have sort of registered that there has been more or less one news source within town. And there's been maybe a need to sort of expand upon that, and digital media can do that pretty evenly and make it fairly accessible. So I wouldn't say, you know, even 60% of town is looking there, but I think whatever the numbers are, I think they are growing. And it's just an easy thing to do. And you almost copy every post that, you know, goes on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, and just dump it right to the Patch with that generic thing. And it could only hurt, you know, help sort of expand the communication. So
I will be happy to try to create that dedicated WHRC account once I delete mine, so that I stop hearing from some of these folks.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so sorry, Sherry.
There was one guy, and now I have 3 people. And like I said, it all, a lot, some of it is from controversies we had a full year ago that we resolved, over a year ago. And some of it is just nasty.
I'm sorry to hear that you've been going through that.
Well, no, I mean, it's just, the thing is, I feel like that my privacy is being violated because they can match me to who I am on the WHRC page, which means that they would find out, would I then be a target? Just
And my
for
question
putting
is,
that
how did they
information out.
get your email address?
They don't get your email address. They get your first name only.
Right, but you said you're getting emails from them.
It comes to, because I had to create an account in order to post.
Oh,
this
it's
patch.
through Patch. So,
Yeah.
like, I see. I see.
Yeah, yeah. I also post on the Wakefield community calendar, which is fine. You know, that's not a problem.
No.
And we're sent to the item on the Observer, which is not been a problem. But like I said, there's some sick people out there. They don't have they must not have much to do with their time. And it's disturbing. Okay, so I will delete my account and try to create a dedicated WHRC account with our email address. And whatever comes next, and I'll share it with everybody.
Thank you, Sherry. That sounds great. Okay, we already talked about the tables at the farmers market. Social media responses. This is you, Daniela. Do you want to give us some background or thoughts about this?
Yes, so my thought of us being in the digital age, digital world, is that there's some sort of level of social responsibility that comes with it. So if we're going to make posts on our page, that's one thing. We can control the comments, well, not control, but we can see the comments, we get alerted of everything, you know, if it's shared. That gives us an opportunity to have a conversation if something were to be positive or negative in response. Now, the critical way of getting our word out there is sharing it, spreading it. And that is generally through community groups. And I think we've all, if we're on there, I've seen what can happen in a community group, how many comments something can get, likes, not likes. And, you know, what is our process going to be going forward? And can we standardize some sort of, not necessarily response, but a tactic to how to manage or react to certain things? So I had to somewhat react to a person who, in response to an post for Pride Month, was really he wasn't creating an inclusive environment for those who are non-binary or anything that were a gender that they weren't assigned at birth. And it was difficult. And I think, sometimes these conversations in general are just always going to be difficult. It was a lot on me to have to deal with. I felt like I had to respond, because if there was anyone from that community that identified as such, they sure as heck did not feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable, and I'm a cis woman. So I messaged the admins, and they, understood where I was coming from, and they took it down. But, I think one piece is having some sort of relationship with admins of different groups that we're going to be sharing our materials with, just to like give them a heads up, like, hey, this is like very controversial or concerning. They're really understanding. Some of them, even message back. Some of them also are like super busy because they're just like us. They're volunteers, and they are magicians having to find the time to deal with all this drama sometimes. And then, just also setting us up for scale, some sort of tactic that we can kind of sort of like this spreadsheet that we've got going on of just all these resources. Like, how do you even begin to sort of combat either negative comments or topics, because if we're going to be putting stuff out there, I think we also have to be responsible for what that ripple effect is, and we can't control everything. I'm not saying we should or try to, but more of like, if we're going to put something out there on Pride and someone like goes and attacks it, how can we turn that into a teaching moment for onlookers and help make our community be allies by being better, by bettering their understanding, in a sense. Yes, so basically, too long didn't read. Social responsibility about any sort of digital communications, sort of need a tactic, not sort of, but we should, I think, need a tactic of how to respond. Who does this come from? Is it us as individuals, as an organization? Is it empowering our own community with this tactic? And those who are of our like minds can also, because I've seen that happen in these groups. People trying to have these hard conversations, and they just get really frustrated. And unfortunately, it's polarizing. Yeah, basically that. What is everyone's thoughts?
I know that we had that training, or that training that I went, and I know the town, because we have that Facebook and we represent the town, we have to be very careful in the way that we engage, I think. And that was kind of the message that I took from that training. It's definitely a teaching, like educating. I think that was the message they gave, but they also were very clear that they don't want us to, I think sometimes you get comments for people just because they want you to react, and that they're looking to start up something. And I think we see that in all sorts of different groups, right? They just want a reaction, and sometimes that's why they post or they share things. But I think, I think we can go back. I know we definitely don't have to take any like sort of abuse, in any way, shape, or form, even online. And I think that town was very clear. If we see somebody that's kind of attacking or coming, we can bring it to the town, and I think they can handle it. But I think we can, I don't know, we can review maybe with like the guidance from the town on how we should proceed, and maybe come up with some pointers that we can use when we see stuff like that.
Yeah, one place where this is muddy to me is on our Facebook page. For example, we can't delete people's comments. We can't delete our posts, but on the community page, how, do you remember, Teresa, if the social media guidelines extended to shared posts?
No, I don't remember, but I don't think the community page is not, I think that's somebody created that and kind of so it's not like representing Wakefield. I think as individuals, I think obviously, I'm sure we're all more careful now with what we say and what we do because we're part of this group, I hope. But yeah, I think we have more of that pressure because we are representing the town in our site. But I don't think the Wakefield community group is under the same rules at all. Because they're not really part of, even though they're called that, and we know that's people in the town, but not everybody is. But you know, they don't have the same guidelines. But I don't know. I think we can kind of go back to that one.
I think another thing to keep in mind is just with respect to what Tom Mullen said in his presentation about the open meeting law last month, because once we start responding, if one person is responding and you're speaking for the group, then there's a question as to whether or not you are accurately representing the thoughts of the entire group. Sorry, I'm just getting a note that my internet connection is unstable. I don't know if people can hear me okay.
We can still hear you.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, I think if we did respond, it would need to be very, very tightly managed and not be a back and forth, definitely not a back and forth, like one response and that's it. And if they want to continue spouting off about whatever it is that they object to, then that's up to them.
Steven, I see your hand. You wanna go?
I find this space to be kind of interesting because the way I think about it is if you took like a low tech approach, which would be think of like the days before Facebook, like what might you do? You might put a flyer up at the library or at the town hall and you're informing people and then you walk away. You don't stand and wait for people to come up and say what they're going to say about it and then have a discussion with them. So I think that's part of the first decide, is it are you looking to open a line of dialogue when we post things like that, or is it just something informing on an event or on a position on something? And if it's just sort of that, then you can just put it there, and then sort of you don't have to say anything else after it, if that makes sense.
I saw Daniela and then Sherry. Okay.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of Steven, there is a setting that when you make a post, you can turn off comments. There's a setting that when you share a post, you can tap the 3 breadcrumbs at the top right and turn off comments for that post. So that is a tactic that we could do. And thank you for reminding me of that point. I think we do want to create a dialogue. I mean, the whole point of us is to educate, and if people need that dialogue in order to move that forward, that's where I think that's where our role is. But also at the same time, maybe not everything needs a dialogue. So I think you bring up a good point, is like mimicking that, hard copy flyer on a wall and walk away.
Sherry, what were you gonna say? Oh,
I was going to say, when I had these people sending me these emails in reaction to our post, Maria had advised me, and it was exactly what I would have done, which was nothing. You don't respond to people who behave in that particular manner. And of course, it's not public. I don't think anyone else sees it. It only went to me, which means it went to the WHRC. So I agree that we have to be careful about not engaging in a back and forth that's going to escalate. But I would wonder if, Teresa, whoever it was who gave the presentation you got from the town, could they do a brief presentation about this to us at a commission meeting about how you deal with people who are baiting us and how to react and what we should do?
Yeah,
Could
I don't
you ask
see
them to
why
come
not.
and do a 15-minute with us or something?
I can check back in the email. I know Maria sent it to me of who was the one that presented. I don't know if it was Jen McDonald or somebody else that came to
Because
talk
by
about it.
by our very nature, we are going to get pushback from people who are not like-minded.
Yeah, it was
It's-
Jennifer McDonald that actually organized it.
Okay.
So I see Eileen's hand and then Elizabeth.
Okay, I'm off mute. As much as we don't want to respond, it's also, I want to make sure that they're aware that there are inclusive people in the community that are available. And when I say they, I mean anyone that's reading the post on the community page and feeling like there aren't welcoming members in Wakefield that are open to, you know, the LGBTQ plus community, or, you know, BIPOC members, or whatever it happens to be. I do wonder if there's a way for us to create like one fixed phrase or one something that we can all use if we see something that happens on the Facebook page, that we can post to, on all we're saying is like, we have an inclusive community here in Wakefield, and here are the resources that you can reach out to connect with us. And maybe it's just like, here's a connection back to our Facebook page so that you can see the events that we have, or other members of the community, or whatever it is. You don't necessarily have to respond exactly to what people are saying, but like to link back to be like, look at, like, we are inclusive. Here are the people that can help you if you should need it. Or I don't know, you know, I don't want to go back and forth with people on the Facebook page, and I intentionally try and stay off of it because it's unnecessary. But in the same sense, it would be great for us to be able to say, like, we see all this hate, but we're here. You know what I mean? Like, we're here if you need us. We're here if you need to be connected. You want to join our community, that kind of thing. I don't know the best way to go about doing that, but it would be great if we had like one thing that we could say when we see that kind of thing.
It's known as a boilerplate response, and you know, and that is not a negative. For instance, when the
Sherry, could I actually ask
you put out a statement about Winthrop.
Yeah,
that was the kind of thing.
Sherry, I just want to recognize that Elizabeth wanted to say something.
So I'm thinking, we're talking about this as responding to things that we have posted. So that is that post is already there. That's something that this inclusive statement, or this opportunity to learn about our community and who is in our community, that's already there. That's the start of the conversation. I really think that our best practice is to just not engage. And I say that as someone who is really not usually great at, you know, not going to all the fights that I'm not invited to, or not going to all the fights that I am invited to. But I think that in this context, being mindful of that open meeting law, and being mindful of, we really need to be cautious. We are operating as a formal entity of the town here, that there are many people who are going to participate in responding to what we post in from many, many different perspectives. And there are going to be people who share our perspective and engage on the community Facebook groups. And we know that because they've been doing it, and they're not members of the HRC, and they're going to continue to do it. But I think for us, it is important for us to post something as the HRC, and then to leave it, and to not respond, because we've already made that statement that this is what the HRC is sharing, inviting you to, celebrating, acknowledging, recognizing, and people behave poorly frequently on Facebook. All of us included, we all behave poorly on Facebook. And I think it's a whole lot easier to just not behave at all.
So I'm hearing two branches on this path. One is don't respond, share the posts or whatever in order to message the inclusivity of the community and to advertise our events, but don't respond to the comments. And the other is have a boilerplate response that we can post. And I liked what you said, Eileen, because it was the boilerplate response that you were describing was not really directed at the troller. It was directed at the bystanders. Like, if you are reading this and you want to get connected to more like loving and inclusive parts of Wakefield, here's where you go. Anyway, so these are the two things. Which direction do we want to go? I don't know if we vote on this or if we, I guess what I would like to do is maybe not a formal vote right now, but just a go around to say like, kind of where are you on those two? Like which one do you think is the better option? To get a sense of where we're at. So, Teresa, which one do you think is the better option?
I mean, I haven't really been doing much of either, but I think if we come up, I would definitely say something like in the words of if you're looking for, resources or support or whatever, or if you want to join our meetings or something like that, that we can agree on, like some blurb, and then we can just use it. Yeah.
What do you think, Maria?
Yeah, I would be comfortable with the boilerplate language. I like that the focus is on the person who could be harmed by the statement rather than the person making the statement. I think that goes back to the active bystander training.
Elizabeth. Well, you already said, but maybe you say again. You're on mute.
I think I would be inclined to put that in the initial post, and to direct people back to us in the initial post and then walk away from it.
Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with Elizabeth, and I liked what she had said initially about sort of that is the start of the conversation. In theory, what needs to be known has already been said, and then you can kind of walk away from it. And that, but if the boilerplate were to be added to that initial post, perhaps that makes sense.
Daniela?
I'd say I like the boilerplate. I like Maria and Teresa's what they had said. Same with Eileen. And I would also say maybe sometimes we turn off comments if it's really not a discussion, like an event. Like there isn't much of a conversation that needs to be had if we're like, be here, have fun.
Eileen, what do you think?
I think having a boilerplate response in the community groups, sometimes you see hundreds of comments attached to that original event. And so being able to respond, even if it's 3 days later, right, to remind people like, you can still come back here if you should need to find that inclusive community. I think we should be focusing on the person that's reading this and feeling offended versus the trolls, to your point.
Yana, what do you think?
Did you ask me?
I asked Yana.
Okay.
No, I agree with Eileen, actually, what she was saying. I definitely think that we should make everyone's opinions feel like valid, but also not add to like the trolls and all of that, because there's going to be some people like that. So just like know when the right situation is to respond, and instead of like completely not responding at all. I feel like each situation is different. So
Sherry, how about you?
I'm leaning towards, I would like to have some stock responses, but I think I'd really like to hear from the town. I'd like to get some more guidance from them on how to frame those before we ever did that. And in most cases, yes, you don't want to validate the trolls, like the people I did not respond to. I absolutely did not respond to them. I wasn't going to validate their negativity. But that wasn't also so public. But I think we do need to go a little further with getting assistance from someone who's a social media expert from the town, because we are a town body.
What about you, Anne?
I like Sherry's idea of deferring to the town, but I would say, well, one, I guess, is what is the point of the Facebook page? What is it that you want? What is the purpose of it?
To share information. Like
To
of
share-
events. Yeah.
So then I would almost think that it's just easier to turn off comments and then have some vehicle for people to get in touch with you. Either, they can an email address or a private message or something like that. But I just think that it just invites a lot of emotions get very high on controversial issues, that there's a troll and then somebody else comes back and then things blow up and it gets out of control. And then the HRC gets coverage that's not about what you're doing for the event, but it becomes more about the controversy that's happening over Facebook. And that's what people are going to talk about is think about Wakefield Community Group. I hear more about the controversies and the arguments than I do about, finding a good plumber or an electrician, which is one of the main purposes of it. So that would be my advice. Just think about what is your goal. If your goal is to disseminate information, then like Steven said, it's like you post a flyer. I just wouldn't allow comments. Because then, you know what, I don't know about you, but you might, a member might, commissioner might come in and just get so angry at something that's said, and then they post something that they, in anger. So I just think I think as much as you can control that, the better.
Ooh, Eileen, go ahead.
I guess I'm a little confused because I think it's a couple different things, right? It's like us posting events on our Wakefield page, on our Facebook page, and then shutting off the comments there. But then it's also a sharing personally, like the events onto the Wakefield community pages. And so I tend to see the comments that are not, part of sort of our inclusive environment, right, in our inclusive community, on, to Anne's point, on those community pages. And maybe I misunderstood, but Daniela, were you thinking like that's where you want to be responding, is in the community pages, right? Not necessarily the responses to our events on Facebook that are our Facebook. It's the community pages where we share stuff to, and then they sort of fill in with additional comments from the community. Is that right?
Correct, because I think the way that our Facebook page is set up right now, no one can actually comment on anything. But if you share a post to say Wakefield community, someone can comment on that shared post. And so that's where I was thinking some social responsibility might need to be like, okay, it says the HRC puts that into that sphere, which we know can be controversial. It can be inclusive or not. Do we turn off comments when we share it, or do we kind of keep an eye out there, and if something really bad happens, we have like a boilerplate statement? That's what I was going with.
But that's what I was responding to Daniela on, like thinking like, could we create a really generic boilerplate statement about the HRC and resources that we offer in the community that we build out to those community pages? Like an event was posted, or there's some sort of something posted out on the community page. Is there something that we can post on our own to combat some of that? And maybe the answer is no, but I like Sherry's idea of talking about it with the town, because I think it's not an easy solution, right? Like it's like we don't want to egg people on in one sense, but we also want to make sure that the people that need this inclusion are seeing that too. So I don't know.
So I will say two things. One is people can comment on our posts on our Facebook page, and do not a lot. We don't get like a ton of comments. We'll get maybe like one comment every 4 posts or something like that. So we don't get trolled hardly at all, like very rarely on our Facebook page. It's like really on the community page that the issue is. The other thing I'll say is, I could be wrong, but I do think, Eileen, what I was hearing from people is people were responding to that question as we went around of like, on the community page, how do we interact with that? There was more support for the boilerplate than for the put it up and walk away, turn off comments. But it sounds like maybe the best next step is to talk to Jen McDonald at the town, gain her insights and advice, and then maybe I can bring this back to our meeting next month after, like I can reach out to her. I'm happy to do that, and then bring back, whatever it is that she advises us or whatever, and then we can talk more about it. And I can ask her, Sherry, if she wants to or can give us a quick rundown or whatever for the commission, since we have multiple people who interact with our Facebook. How does that sound for next steps? Great.
Sorry,
go
real
ahead.
quick. One question I would just double check with her is if we can, I'm not sure if we're allowed to shut off comments for a particular post as a town body. I don't, I honestly, I have no idea, but I don't know why something is telling me that we can't, but
Yeah,
I would double check that with her.
yeah, that's a good point.
But what we probably can do is if we have made a post that has comments available on it on the Wakefield HRC page, and one of us shares it to a community page, we can turn off the comments on the community page. Then someone can always go back to the HRC page if they want to make a comment.
I will definitely make sure to ask her about that, like a nuance or whatever.
Yeah, I would get guidance from town council and from Jen McDonald, because it's, you don't want to get yourself into any issues, so. But I have to run, I'm sorry, I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm
Yeah,
like,
we are seriously taking a long time, everybody.
bye-bye.
Thank you, Anne. The
Thank
next couple things, let's do it so fast, everyone. The financial report isn't necessarily like a big thing to go into, but Sherry was kind enough to put together a financial report for us. So you are welcome to look at that if you have any questions about our financial accounts. Sherry, do you have anything
Actually,
to
it
add?
was just sent to me. It's sent
Oh,
to me
great.
monthly, and I didn't know if I was supposed to share it with you or not, since I never got
Yeah.
a job description for treasurer.
I think it's fine to share it, and like, I think it's helpful for everyone for the information to be like diffuse, like everyone can see what money we have and what
Mhm.
accounts it's in and how it works. I think that's good. Thank you for sending it.
So I will make sure that in the future, I will share each monthly report.
Yeah, and I can just put it in the meeting packet and we
Mhm.
don't necessarily have to like go over it or whatever. It's just
That's
available
right.
for people to look at. Thank you. Physical storage space, Maria's favorite topic.
Very briefly, Steve Mayo and I exchanged an email. He was going to check. I haven't heard back from him yet. So when I do hear back from him, then we can have a longer discussion about, do we actually want to put our stuff in one of the town buildings or not? But yeah, that's it with that.
I already have stuff I would like to put in there because AAPI month is May, and there are 11 other months of the year that I don't need that material. Or 10 of them. So that's a perfect example. I have these big poster boards that I would love to have in someone else's storage.
If they're
All right.
taking up a lot of space in your house, we have a large attic. I can absolutely take it for the time being. I'd be happy to take it. And once I hear back from Steve Mayo, we can cross that next
Oh,
bridge.
I mean, I can hold on to it temporarily, but what I'm saying is this is a perfect example of the kinds of stuff that can go into storage because we know when it's coming up, we can then get it out in time.
Yeah. Okay, next thing is now working with other HRCs.
I have a doodle poll ready to send out and I haven't sent it yet, and keep it on the agenda for next month because I'm really going to do it for August.
That's how I feel about the tasks I was supposed to do.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad I'm not alone in this.
Never. Chair's comments. Let's see. I already talked about Emma as our student appointee, and there's not really anything to discuss about this. I had emailed everyone, but wanted to just bring it up here as well. So after the shooting in Winthrop, which is being investigated as a hate crime, I used me and Jeremy used the template that we have. So this template was developed like several years ago, maybe like 2-3 years ago, for us to have, like Sherry was saying, a boilerplate response to like hate incidents. So I used it, and that was about it. It's very like, it's not a super nuanced, like powerful statement, right? It's basically just like, hate is bad. This thing was hateful. Wakefield is full of love from the HRC, so that was the first time we've deployed it in a while, I think. So I wanted to kind of put it out there that that's a thing we have. It's a thing that the HRC as a body approved a couple of years ago. There's like a few blanks. So the language stays the same. So it's been approved by the HRC already, which is why we can meet outside of open meeting to like, not meet, we can, outside of open meeting, kind of decide to post that when we need to, because it's already been approved for future use. And then there's like a few blanks that are where you put the actual like incident that's like relevant. So any like questions about that, issues?
Well,
thoughts?
thank you for doing that. That was really, really good.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Okay. Another matter which was anticipated, and so the version of the what do you call this thing? The agenda that I sent to Sherry was like the wrong version, which I feel really terrible about. But the other thing that was supposed to be on there that wasn't on there was, we had said last time that we would talk this time about joining the North Shore Juneteenth Coalition for $186.50 as a, like, that's the organizational like fee or whatever for an organization to join. Did people have an opportunity to look at their website and kind of like see what they do and what the fee is for and things like that? Any thoughts about joining? Any strong opposition to joining? Oh, Elizabeth, were you going to say something?
I was gonna say, it sounds like a thing that I think that we should do. I would love to be able to formally collaborate with them. And I think that that's much easier to do if we are supporting them as an organization.
Any concerns about joining the North Shore Juneteenth Coalition? All right, let's vote. It's
Just
$186.
One
yeah.
comment. Before we do, can we also run this by the town and make sure that they say this is an appropriate thing for us to do?
What are your thoughts?
Because we're spending money from our budget, and will this be something that they would approve of?
We spend money from our budget all the time.
No, I know, but this is for joining an organization rather than buying materials to support an event that we're putting on. I'm just wondering if we need, Maria, you were, as chairman, would this be the kind of thing that you would have asked about before we?
I don't think so, but it's the first time that we've, as an organization, joined, like formally joined with another coalition. So can't hurt to ask.
Elizabeth, what's on your mind?
So I will say that there is another HRC that is a member of the North Shore Juneteenth Coalition. And I will also say that I don't feel great about asking the town council for permission to do something. I think that we're the folks, I mean, there are certainly, some things that we have to bring to town council, right? But in terms of decisions for, hey, do we engage in anti-racism in this way? I don't feel great about asking someone else's permission to do something that I think should be an automatic, this is part of our mission and part of our work.
Okay, I'm gonna put it to a vote. If you have concerns maybe about like if this is a good idea, like your concern, Sherry, feel free to express that in your vote. So should we pay $186.50 to join the North Shore Juneteenth Coalition? Teresa?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
No, Stephen, you don't get to vote. Daniela?
Yes.
Eileen?
Yes.
Sherry?
Abstain. Sorry.
That's okay. You don't have to apologize. I also say yes. Okay. I think that was the last thing on our agenda. Are there any other matters not anticipated? Yeah, Sherry.
I sent you an email about the library forming some kind of community coalition group for the town to make sure that all the different groups, which would save us a lot of work if they put that together. So I was just wondering, it's a simple form, and I just wondered if you'd like me to just fill out the form. It says, yes, we're a community group, and put us on your list.
Yeah, I don't know if other people saw this. They, as the sort of the finale for the, what's it called? Connect with your community. What's it called?
Commit
Commit to your community. Yeah, it's the series of events they've been doing for the past like 6 months or more. Their final thing is they're putting together this like fully compiled, thorough list of all the organizations in town that you can get involved with. And I totally think you should fill it out and that the HRC should be on there.
Okay.
Any concerns or opposition to that concept? Great. I love it. Thank you for bringing that up, Sherry. Danielle, I saw you raise your hand a second ago.
Just to tack it on to next month's agenda, to give light to a graphic that was sent around in the materials for this meeting. Just something I was going to propose as far as like an educational social media campaign. But I think it's somewhat related to the previous discussion of like how we're going to react to these things, because that would definitely get responses. And yeah, so next meeting.
Okay. And it's that one specifically, or are you thinking that as like a style of educational media campaign, social media campaign?
A style, yes. Sorry, I should probably explain. So just sort of like terminology that would be appropriate to use, maybe those living with disabilities, seen and unseen, how they would like to be approached. And same thing with terminology of like transgender, you know, like what were we taught like not too long ago, and now what is like appropriate to say, just so that way people know. And that's where, you know, anything that could be negative that comments that it would directly alienate a community. So that's where it's just like, all right, how do we navigate that? So yeah.
All right, I will put it on there for next time. Any other stuff? Maria?
Just one quick thing. A member of the community had reached out via Facebook Messenger to see if we would be willing to post something for July 26th is the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And several cities have designated July Disability Pride Month, which I think is something different from Disability Awareness Month. But it might, if everyone's okay with it, I'm happy to write something just briefly up to post on Facebook on July 26th in recognition of it.
Sounds great. Any concerns? So good. Thank you, Maria.
Yep.
Okay. Sherry, can we review the action list?
Whoa, yes. I've been trying to type it in red so I can find all
Yes,
of it.
I did the same thing.
Okay, and I will put that in the minutes in red as well to help all of you. Okay, so we start with that. I encouraged all of you to contact me about any information. Oh, I'm sorry. Emma is supposed to contact me about receiving her orientation. That was the first thing. Okay. Second thing, Lindsay is going to read out what is relevant in the material she sent to us that speaks to our mission and supports our program. And she's going to serve as our liaison when it comes to sharing mental health issues with the health department, Wake Up Coalition, and other groups. Next, got this strange little split screen. Daniela is going to develop a timeline for Pride Month. Eileen is going to investigate the North Shore Pride event that's been postponed until September 8th and see if we can learn anything from it. Benny is going to find out if the town flag policy can be changed so that we can raise our flag at other than the America and maybe even hang banners, and check with Tom Mullen about the legal position on the flag policy. I don't know who was supposed to do this, but we're supposed to find out if they're going to hang the WHS graduates banners in 2022. I
think that might be a task like down the line. For
Okay, so that's not for here.
Yeah.
Okay. And for everybody, all subcommittee chairs coordinate the development of a timeline for the signature event or the commemoration they planned.
Yeah, I think that also replaces the one for Daniela about making the timeline.
Yes.
Red. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, and now we have a whole bunch of them on the Hate Has No Home signs. Marie's going to create a flyer. Stephen's going to create a QR code. Benny's going to sign up for more tables at the farmers market. Yana's going to spread the word through the youth council. And I'm going to contact Jen McDonald about advertising on the town's digital boards, both at the gazebo and in the town hall. I also said that I would delete my Patch account and try to create a generic one for the whole WHRC so that nobody has to get abusive emails individually. Then he's going to contact Jen McDonald about speaking at us at a future meeting and find out if we're allowed to turn off comments to post. This is all about social media, about speaking with us about reacting to social media posts at our future meeting, and find out if we're allowed to turn off comments to a post on our Facebook page. And again, getting towards the bottom here, I'm going to apply for that. The library's commit to your community resource page of organizations. And Maria is going to make a write-up on the ADA Act to recognize the anniversary of the ADA. And Maria, is this just going to appear on our Facebook page, or is this something you're going to want to send to the observer and the item, or?
I can send it to the observer item and Patch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that will be the item, observer, our Facebook page, of course. And that is a lot.
Thanks for capturing all of that. Okay, now to adjourn. I'm going to ask you if you would like to adjourn. Please tell me yes or no. Oh, yeah, Stephen, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm used to saying like closing statements and my other thing, and I just wanted to inform sort of the group that if anyone, not everyone watches school committee, but if anyone is interested in sort of some of the things that we talked about with the upcoming curriculum adjustments in terms of Indigenous cultures and acceptable, more acceptance of divergent viewpoints. That came up on June 29th. So there's going to be some work happening in the curriculum, and there was a great discussion on it. So if you're interested in that, by all means, it's WCAT on YouTube. You can watch that, and good things happening there. And then also the State House, the legislature to ban Indigenous peoples as mascots and logos has taken a step forward. So there's good movement there. And that was all. I just want to share that, and now I can adjourn. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen. Teresa, what do you think about adjourning?
Yes, thank you.
Maria,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Daniela,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
me is also a yes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. It's 9:10. That was a real marathon. I appreciate your time and your patience.